All right. Well, hello, everybody. Anne just wrapped up, and I was just about to tie a knot. This morning, we did a spin for the next work in progress out of the box, and the spin chose bag number 5. So I've been working on that, which was the little vest project, and I thought, wonder why this is still in here. And then I realized I hadn't cut a front lining piece, so I had to go shop my stash and cut that out. And I didn't have the interfacing cut out, but hi Ann, I've been sewing away and I'm to the top stitching part of it. So the little vest is here. And I think it's turned out pretty neat looking. It will have buttons on the front, so I got to do the buttons and the buttonholes. But the next thing I have to do is all the top stitching. And then I didn't put you're supposed to put one of those little belts from one part of it from here and one from here, so it kind of pulls the back in like that. But I didn't put that on because it wasn't cut out in there. So I'm trying this without the little brace for the back. So anyway, this was the vest. So after I sign off here again, I'll go over to the sewing machine and sit there and do all the top stitching around all the outside edges, around the neck, the armholes, everything. I just finished. What you do is you just fold your lining seam allowance out of the way, and then you stitch the body of the item, and then you turn it all right side out. But then you have to hand sew all of that. So that's what I just finished, is the hand sewing bit on each side here. So all of that is hand sewn. And I did kind of a variation between a slip stitch and a ladder stitch. So the stitches are completely hidden, so you can't see them. So I think that turned out pretty good. I'm going to set this over on the machine, and I'll do the top stitching later and add the buttons and the buttonholes. So that's another project nearly done. And I'm not going to spin for another one until this one's completed. And I will show the little short set that I finished yesterday real quick. And I was going to save it and show it on Friday, but why not do it right now? So here's the little shorts that I made to go with the top. And what I do when I'm making little shorts, because it's not always easy to show the front and the back, if you just take a little loop of ribbon and put it at the back, then you know that that's the back of the little shorts. So that's the shorts. And I'll leave it on the hanger. This is the little top. And I did wash this, but the pink, I still have some of that pink, reddish pink splotches here, there, and everywhere. Along in here, I can still see it. So I might try to dye this, but together they look like that. So it's a really darling little set. And instead of doing a thread loop and a button, I just did a hook and eye. And I sewed it so that it's on the outside of the fabric so it doesn't rub on a child's back. But yeah, I'm really disappointed. You can see it real bad right there. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. The light's really washing us out. Maybe if we cut some of this off. But yeah, I did wash it with a color grabber thrown in with it, and it's still got some pink. So if you were going to try to dye over this, the only problem I think is this stain has been in here for probably about 20 years. So I don't know if even OxyClean will get it. I might try that. I might try soaking it in OxyClean. But if that doesn't work, I'm just thinking of doing an all-over dye. But I don't know what color. I had thought about purple because red and blue make purple. So I thought it would look better that way. But I'll try the OxyClean and let you know. I'm going to hang this back up. And I redid Gertie, my dress form. I took all of her stuffing out. And I'm going to try using her without any additional love handle added. I'm unplugging my iron. I forgot I left it on. Howard's going to freak out. So those were what I have been working on this morning. So what we have left is to choose from are the bunny, the purse, the nightgown, the two little dresses, and I think that's it because we've done 2 out of the 6 so far. I've done 2 out of the 6. So I'm getting there. Of getting through those. So what do we want to do? Oh, I was saying about the little short set. The 3rd page of instructions was nowhere to be found. So I had to, thankfully I know how to sew shorts together, but the remainder of the instructions for the collar area, they were long gone. So I just looked at the picture on the envelope and did the best I could. And Howard, let me have this. Howard. I'm going to put this in this here for right now. And I have also, I was on Pinterest because of Deb Farrell, and I found a little pattern for a hanging, one of these here, that little hanging bag things. Well, I printed the pattern off that went with this, and you can get this over at Mobile Baloo, little basket. I don't know. I'll try to remember to link the website. Well, when I printed the pattern off, this makes a very tiny basket. This is the pattern for it. So last night while I was watching a movie, I did this. I blew it up. So basically all of the measurements were doubled. So this 4.5 is now 9 inches up the front. So my hanging basket, when I get to it, will be much bigger. But that's what I did. And then Scott was like, "You drew that without making little squares?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So basically I took this pattern and just blew it up in my own mind. So that's going to be a project coming up. And then this, the arched part of it, I just eyeballed. So I think it looks pretty close, but I wanted to show you that, as that's going to be an upcoming project. I guess we could work on the little bag today. Let's see here. I want to pull this out because when I started this on Monday morning, we drew the pattern for the lining, which was this right here. And then JL contacted me and let me know that I messed up one of the measurements. And I'm glad she caught it, and I'm glad she left a comment about it, because I went back and I had this wrong. So I cut this at just 1 3/4 here, but you need 1 3/4 plus another half for your seam allowances. So each of the things needed to be 2 1/4, not 1 3/4. I wouldn't have had any seam allowance. And the strap part of it, I've decided I'm just going to use some belting out of my stash instead of cutting handles. And that I'll just eyeball the length. So I wanted to point that out, that you have to pay attention to your measurements. So I went back and I unplugged my iron, and I'm going to need it. But I went back and I drew a corrected pattern, and that is what this one is. So this is 7 by 7, which is my side here, 7 by 7. And then I added 1 inch at the top that'll get turned down inside the bag, and I'm going to hand sew it in. And then I put 2 1/4 inches there, 2 1/4 inches there, 2 1/4 inches there. And these are 2 1/4 inch squares just cut out to create your bottom. So then I went shopping in my stash, and I took my pattern and I cut out 2 of these. And I also cut out 2 of the interfacing. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to this real quick. I'll have to get my iron going. Let me do that real quick. And when you're doing adhering of the interfacing, you don't want it on super hot because it'll make your interfacing really draw up bad. You just need it warm enough to melt the glue. So I'm going to put mine at a level 3, which is right before steam. I'm not going to use any steam. But then I got to thinking how nice it would be to have a pocket inside this. So if I put a 5 by 5 pocket inside, after I adhere this on, I'm going to put a pocket here on the inside, maybe even go right down to the bottom. Just set it down there and kind of center it. I'm going to cut that out while we're waiting on the iron. So let me say hi. I get distracted. I've got so many little fabric things. I need to start a little basket that's nothing but offcuts of projects that I could like send out in Happy Mail if anybody wanted fabric scraps. Sorry, I gotta pour me a hot cup of tea. It's kind of nice having my kitchen right next to the hobby space. So I think I'm gonna cut. Let's see here. I'm just gonna fold this over here. And maybe we'll cut a 5 by 5 square out real quick. If that's what I got there. Rotary cutter. Thank you. Oh, somebody's dinging me. It's my son. Let's see. Yeah, I can get a 5 by 5 out of here. I'm just going to line that up there. Because I'll never be able to use all these tiny little fabric pieces. But I thought, oh, other people might like to have some. So I might start that. And you know what? I wanted that to be 5 1/2. So I could, and I'm not going to have enough there. I don't think. Well, I'm going to cut this way. Maybe I could got it where I can cut just a sliver off. And I'll end up with 2 pieces. Yep. So I'm going to sew those right side together. Oh, the problem I have is I don't have white thread in the sewing machine anymore. Of course, I could pull out another sewing machine, couldn't And I'm just going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then on this side, I'm going to put a couple pins in this direction instead of the other way, because I need to leave a little hole to turn it right side out. And then I'll press it really good, and then I can sew it in place inside my bag. So I'm going to set that aside real quick. And I will iron my interfacing on off camera. So you'll have to talk amongst yourselves, because I'm not going to move the camera abound. And let's see, the struggle is real. That's pretty. Hi, Joyce. Hi, Pam. Hi, Ann. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Steph. And Shannon. So I had a lot of fun sewing yesterday, and I'm having fun again today sewing. And so here I go. I'm going to sew some more. This is a project I didn't really have in mind to do. And I am going to pull the pins out once I get this over here. And we'll just start setting the iron down and then lifting it up. You don't iron interfacing on. You don't move the iron a whole bunch. You let it set it down and leave it in one place for a little bit. And then you move it again. It's not an ironing motion of moving it back and forth. It's just straight up, straight down. About 10 seconds or so in one spot. It'll take me a minute to do both pieces. You just want to get that hot enough to get that glue to stick. I wish I had like multiple cameras so I could just like move the angle from one place to the next real low key and easily. I'm going to turn this over so now it's face up. You just don't want to get glue on the bottom of your iron. I really need cream thread in that bobbin. I mean, in that sewing machine. And I'm not going to wind a bobbin. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. So this might not have been a good project to do, but with you guys right now. But I can kind of show you what I'm doing, and we could work on it as step by step. All right, so the interfacing is on here now. It's glued on. So this part, I've got the other half to do yet. But once I sew all the way around and I turn this right side out, then I'm just going to take it and put it on here. It's going to be a kind of narrow little pocket. And then I'll just sew right on the edge all the way around. And I'm only using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that'll give me a little pocket on the inside of my little bag. And I'll try to center it. You just got to remember an inch of this is going to get turned down like so. And that you'll hand stitch to the inside of the bag. But before we do that, we've got some other sewing to do. Hi, Mary. Hi, Carol. Let me go press the other. And I can switch this thread out real quick on my machine. I just hate to do it because then I'll have to switch it back to finish the vest. One thing about doing these works in progress, I'm finding a whole bunch of my pins and needles. Where I've been buying more pins and needles, I've got like a lifetime supply making itself known again. Of course, I could start throwing some of the ones that seem dull as all out. I'll just start pitching those. See if I can get this to melt quickly. Now, if I wanted that pocket to be a little bit more stable, I could put some interfacing on the back of one side of it, because this is awful thin fabric. But, you know, I'm using 2 layers. I'm sitting here thinking maybe I should fuse some interfacing to the back of that. To give it more structure. What do you guys think? Interfacing? My interfacing part of the bag is going to be pretty. Interfacing is a magical thing. It just can give body to stuff that you don't think could get any better without it. All right, let me turn this over here. All right. I think I will get a piece of interfacing really quick because it'll only take me a minute to put it on the back of one piece here. Let me, oh, and I didn't realize that has a nick in it, but it'll be okay. It'll get caught up in the stitching. Let me just grab this here. I'll just stick this on here. And interfacing like this does have a grain as well, so I'm going to try to match it. Put it on here like this. This has a grain this way as well. I think that'll be all right. And I want this to end up with the shiny stuff facing the back of the strawberries. So we'll just pin this on here. And I do save even my weird cut pieces of interfacing because it's not cheap. And it only takes a minute to do. So I am going to interface the pocket just so it's not droopy. That'll go back in my interfacing drawer. I now have an interfacing drawer that's nothing but interfacing. Yes, interface the pocket. All right, Cindy agrees. That piece I'll save, these littler ones I won't. Because that could be, you know, for like a single buttonhole area, I could cut some small pieces off that. All right, so let me take this over and I'll put this on, interfacing on the back. Then I'll have to switch my thread out. Luckily, I won't have to wind a bobbin because I have a white bobbin already. I was having trouble with my machine earlier. The bobbin was jumping up and down inside the bobbin case. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then my home ec teacher from 7th grade popped in my head and she said, unthread and rethread the machine. And I said, all right. And sometimes that's all you need to do. Never just jump in messing with your tension. Never do that. Always pull the thread out and rethread it. And never pull your thread back through backwards. Cut it and pull it down through the system. Because if you pull it backwards, you're putting maybe threads thread bits or lint gets pulled back in your mechanisms and it'll mess you up. So this is really a quick little project if you do it all at once. All right, so now this has got interfacing on it. And so I'll put this piece back on it, right sides together here. And I'm going to use the red pins to remind me. This is where you need to leave a hole to turn it. And then I'm just going to put a pin in each side. All right, so we're going to do this. And I will put you up over here. And I have my helper here, my little assistant. All right. So I'm going to go stitch this real quick over here. We can put some light on the subject. Over this way. There we go. All right. See, you'll see my back. So anyway. White thread. I'm almost out of purple, but I'll have to rewind some before I finish that top stitching, I'm sure. Here's some white. Hopefully there's enough white here that we can do this project really quick. Going to dinner with my sisters tonight to some place called Politico, and I've never been there. I looked up the menu, and it's tacos. I need to order some more the little pieces of felt to go on where the thread runs. And I can turn this lamp on. Woo! So, through there, down through here, get this back to an upright, through there, got this needle threader down, over across and through the little hook. Voila, it's threaded. Wasting a bit of thread there. Howard, what are you doing? All right, we're good to go. Good to go. Howard, chill. Well, need to do one more stitch. put you back down here for a minute. Howard was getting in things. I'm going to cut the corners off, but not through my stitching. This reduces the bulk in the corners. And now I left a hole here somewhere. I always go for a hole, the corner, one of the corners that's the farthest away. And then just start pulling it through. Don't try to pull too hard or you'll pop your stitches. Sounds like it's starting to rain again. It's so cold. This rain that's falling is so cold. Okay. And then I've got this little turner device. And you don't ever want to push too hard with it either, or you'll pop through and then you'll have a hole to deal with. I'm just kind of working it out. Okay, and this one we want to do the same. Slow and steady wins the race. Howard's upset because the other two have both baskets on the work table. All right. So I'm going to take this over to the ironing because your iron is really your best tool when you're sewing. And I'm going to make sure that this is all folded in the 1/4 inch. And I'm going to press it really good, nice and smooth. And then this is going to be the top of my pocket. I'm going to go over to the sewing machine after I press, and I'm just going to top stitch close to the edge for the top of the pocket. And then we'll pin this onto the inside of this here. Yeah, now he's looking like I was scolded. So let me, and some people say whip stitch that opening closed. I figure when I sew it down, it'll get locked in place then. I need my turner again because I can see this is not worked out all the way, right there. There. And we'll come over here and see if this can get pushed out a little bit more. Because I don't want to sit and hand sew right now. I just did all that hand sewing on that top, or vest rather. I'm going to just hide that thread inside. Yeah. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but that dehumidifier that they installed just runs and runs and runs. All right, I'm going to press again because I opened it back up. And then I'll top stitch that side, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do next. I need this hotter. Hotter. That looks very good. Let me top stitch this down. So I'll show you what I just did. I just stitched a little bit from the edge right there to top stitch it. You can do a decorative stitch. I mean, I could change the stitches on my sewing machine and do something cute there, but it's on the inside of the bag, so it'd be like a wasted effort, right? So let's just grab one of these sides. This is the top of the pocket where the top stitching is. I'm going to come up just a little ways from the bottom, and I'm going to try to center it. Now, if you really want it to be perfect, take your bag and throw it in half here and do a finger press down the bag. Then you can open it back up, and then you can take your pocket. You can fold your pocket in half. I'm an eyeballer. I don't worry about it too much. And then you just match them up like that. And now you know that's dead center. I'm going to come up a little ways, and then we're just going to pin this in place. Now, depending on what you're going to put in this, I'm thinking chapstick or thing of hand lotion or something, you know, nothing too heavy. Or my phone. You can do one or two times around. If you want it to be more stable, put another round of stitching. I'm only going to put a single time around close to the edge. But you could do a second time a little bit away from the first time, and then it's more secure and everybody. All right. Oh, bye, Cindy. I'm sorry I have to go off shot to do the sewing, but that is what it is. All right, so let me stitch this down real quick. Howard, nobody wants to see you doing that. Howard, chill out, dude. Get a thread catcher over there so I have somewhere to go with the thread. All right, so here's my pocket all sewed on there. So now I could take this over and go ahead and maybe put my crease in for the 1 inch that I want to go down, and then just open it back up just so I have a little help once I get this sewn together. It's going to be less easy to put this in. So I'm thinking I might do this right now. So I'm going to just press this down on both pieces. It's just to give me a reference point. I'm doing about 1 inch. These are just reference lines for me for later. Hi, Maritza. So I folded it down and pressed it, but I'm going to open it back up because we need to sew our sides together. But that'll just give me a reference point for the next step. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pin these 2 layers together. I'm going to sew down this side across the bottom and down this side. And then we'll do the boxed pleat at the bottom, the boxed corner. So I'm just going to pin these together and take it to the sewing machine. And I'm only going to do about a 1/4 of an inch seam on these. I think I actually said a 1/2 inch seam, right? Yeah, 1/2 inch seam on each one. 1/2 inch, not a 1/4. All right, so I'll have to go back off to the side here to the sewing machine and stitch these, the 3 sides. All right, don't worry about the corners right now. We'll get to those in a minute. So I'm going to go and stitch this at the 1/2 inch. So now here we got our bag, and we're going to finger press open our seams. You just open the seam and flatten it out with your finger. I'm just working it with my, and yes, I still have nail polish on my thumb because I still don't have nail polish remover. Oh, Candy had to go, or Cindy had to go. Oh, Cindy. Bye, Cindy. Hi, Maritza, she says. All right. And I'm just going to open these, each one, just so they lay flat. And I don't end up with a ton of bulk anywhere. See, if I'd sewn this one, then I could have opened it flat and took it to my ironing board and flattened it. But I can get a good enough result by finger pressing, I hope. I hope. All right. Then you're going to take and you're going to open the hole. Get it open like it's going. Ah! Okay. Then put open this seam and this one and line up the seams. And we're going to pin that. Where's my pins? Back over here. Okay, I'm going to pin this here, and I'm going to go the opposite way that I've been doing with the pins, just so I can pin those two seams flat, and that I can pull the pins out from the side this way. And again, I'll take it to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch from this edge, so right across there on both sides. So let's get this flat. Howard, I'll put you out on the porch, but it's chilly. They're having a temper tantrum. Like, you already were live this morning. Why are you doing this now? Because this is my regular time, Howard. I just wanted to spin for the next project because I got done with the first one. I'm having a lot of fun doing the whole spin thing because it gives me somebody else to choose what I can do. Oh, you forget how to do the corners like this? A lot of people will say, just sew all the way down. Don't cut the corners out. Do that. I get a better result doing it this way than folding the bag like this, sewing across, and then cutting the triangle off. I never get very good results. I don't find it's even. I like this method better. But if you like the other method, you do you. All right, let me go sew this a 1/2 inch seam. Other side here. Okay, so it's sewn now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut just a tiny little bit off from here, away from my stitching. I just want to cut some of this thickness there away. All right. So this is the lining of the bag, right? So there's this way. So now that we've got our side sewn, it's going to be nice that we got that pressed, because now we can just turn that down. Okay. And remember, I'm hand stitching this inside the bag, and open your seam flat so that it'll lay better. All right. So now technically, if I did everything right, this should fit inside my crocheted bag and give it a little bit more body. I say it should fit in here. Let's see here. Find a corner, push it into a corner. These worked into this corner. I'm kind of sticking my fingers into the lining fabric's corners and just pulling the crochet up. And see, I can tell I'm off, because that should be, the seam should be in the center of this side. I think what I'm going to do is get my clips and just start clipping this where I want it to be. All right, let me get my clips. Let's see, I had them earlier. Now I'm not going to do the hand sewing with you guys. I just want to get this clip together, and then I can sit and watch TV. And I also have to fit in my straps. Hi, Dee Dee. So give me a second here. And I like having the strawberry pattern inside this. So this seam should be in the center over here. So I'm just going to eyeball the center, and I'm going to clip that in place. Clip that in place there, and then I'll clip the other in the center of this other side. I may have made it a little tall, but the crochet will stretch. So we're going to go for it. So that's about the center of that. And that's about the center of that. Whoops. There it goes. Okay. And then I'll just start working my way around. And if you pull on the, you'll get it to meet up. You just have to finesse it into position. You don't force it, finesse it, because forcing's how you tear stuff, and you end up with a less than perfect finish. But this little bag used to have a wooden handle, and the crochet would get dirty, you know, carrying it, because I did use this as my purse for a while, back when I didn't carry everything under the sun in it for myself and my husband, you know, 2 lip balms, a thing of hand lotion, phone chargers. That's why I carry Mr. Mustard most of the time now. That's what I call my purse, Mr. Mustard. So yeah, I got the bright idea. I just line it with some cotton, and that would keep the bag from stretching all out of shape. And I can just throw it in the washing machine when it needs to be cleaned. So now I just got to get this other side finessed into position. And I don't even care that it's a little on the big side, because I figure, as I used to say, it'll ride up with wear on that British comedy. Are you being served? All right, let's see here. We'll finesse this into position. And these little clips are the best thing ever invented when it comes to things of different textures to be held together. I love them. All right. I will have to fit whatever I've got some belting. I might get it out. And you enjoyed that we raised Greg on British, whatever was on PBS, I guess is where we used to watch it. But we watched Are You Being Served and Waiting for God, and his favorite all time was the beginning of Mystery, where the lady's laying on the brick wall going, oh, oh. And when Greg was little, our son, he would do that. He's like, look, Mama, it's a lady from Mystery. So, yeah, there's my little bag, and it's going to be lined, and I'll be able to use it again. And I think that's going to be perfect. I'm just working the corners into the corner. So let me grab some belting, and we'll attach some little handles, and I'll do the hand sewing off, but then I'll post a picture because I'm just going to sew through the fabric and then through the crocheted cotton. And I did crochet this too. It was a free pattern. I think it was on Joann.com, a little bag. And it looks so much like a strawberry. I was so tickled to see this fabric in my stash. Famous artist did that, Edward Gorey. Yes. And then I got a little pocket in it this time. I could actually add a key loop to hook my keys to. You just do a little loop of fabric and then sew that in. Then you can just clip your keys to it. Let me grab some belting. Oh, I think I'm going to like this a lot. So I am enjoying sewing this week. And if you came for art, I'm sorry, I'm sewing. I myself consider sewing to be an art form in and of itself, because you can take something you do in art and you can turn it into a